go ahead and click on continue. We'll be able to continue on with the workshop.
Okay. So since it's after 1,
Let's get started.
okay. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Amy Torgerson, and this is the Overcoming Test Anxiety and Remote Test Taking workshop. And this is presented by the Glendale Community College Counseling Department. And we're so thrilled that you're here. And at the end, so you're going to need to stay to the end of the presentation. So if you're here for extra credit or for a program for a class, at the end, please put in the chat your program or your class so that we can get the information to the proper person. So in order to get the extra credit, you do need to stay to the end and then put it in the chat. And my moderator, thank you so much to Dr. David Gerkin. He's going to be moderating for us today, so I appreciate all of his help. And again, my name is Amy Torgerson. I'm so glad you're here. And we're going to be talking about test anxiety, which I'm sure all of you have been experiencing to some level in a different way during the pandemic. So we're going to go ahead and get started by looking at this picture. Hopefully everyone can see that. Moderator David, are you able to see it?
Yes.
Just to do a little bit of a check. Okay, thank you. So when you think about taking a test, or when you are in the process of taking a test, or after you have taken a test, you may experience some of these feelings. It's important to have the self-awareness to know, okay, when I take a test, this is what happens. Then you know what to do when you are experiencing them. A lot of times you don't even know what's happening, why it's happening. So look at those and think about when you take a test. I'm guessing that a lot of you do experience test anxiety, and that's why you're here. And so, where are you on this? So, we're going to take a poll to get an idea of where your anxiety is. So, do you have high anxiety, moderate anxiety, lower anxiety, or no anxiety when you're taking a test? So we're going to go ahead and do the poll with the help of my moderator. Okay. So what level of anxiety do you have when it comes to taking a test? Do you have high anxiety? Like I said, moderate? Go ahead and mark which one you feel when you're taking a test. And it could be the way you're taking a test now with the remote learning. Okay.
I'm seeing the results. Seeing the
Okay.
results coming in, and we'll give you a few more seconds. I just admitted someone else. We'll give you a few more seconds to go ahead and
Okay.
give your
Yes.
responses.
And I
Just a few
appreciate
more
you
seconds.
sharing with me. Okay.
Okay, it looks like we got just about everyone who has responded. So I'm going to go
Okay,
ahead
so
and
15 of 15 have voted. That's great.
I'm going to go and
So
end the poll so we can see the results. I will
thank
share the
you.
results
So
with you.
it does look like moderate anxiety is the number 1. So we do have a few that have high anxiety. Moderate anxiety is 53%, little anxiety, and a couple that have no anxiety. So that is something to kind of evaluate as well. But are you just not aware of it, or do you really not have any anxiety? And then if that's the case, I may ask you to teach this next time because that is fabulous. All right, so thank you. So,
I'm going to stop sharing, and then you may need to close the poll to get it out of your
okay,
way.
so you may
So
have to hit the X, everyone, in order to keep seeing the PowerPoint. Okay. And sometimes when the poll happens, it doesn't like to go forward. So what we're going to start with is general preparation. So these are things you can do regardless of how you are taking your exam. So back when you took it in person, or if you took it online for an online class prior, or if you're taking it now in a remote learning environment. All of these preparation tips that we're going to be discussing will be helpful for you. So, what I want you to do as you're taking notes and writing down what we're discussing is have that self awareness that I mentioned at the beginning. How are you going to incorporate these tips into your life? So, what would work for you? So you know yourself and you know your learning style, you know your personality. So what's going to help you? So as we're going through all of these techniques, we're going to talk about a lot of things, things that you can do before, during, and after the actual test taking to help with your anxiety. So I would like you to mark and make notes of things that you would find helpful. So, what are things you're already doing? What are things that you would be committed to trying? And then, how are you going to incorporate that as you move forward? So, as we're doing that, okay?
Now, Amy, they're going to be using some of their notes towards the end of the workshop, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So, you will need some of your notes. You will need a piece of paper and the notes at the end when we talk. You'll have an opportunity to share what you're going to do. Now, it's not wanting to go forward. Okay, so the first thing is develop good study habits. So, a lot of research has indicated if you are more prepared for the exam, your anxiety level is going to go down. So, anxiety is anything that's causing you problems. So, everyone has a different threshold of where their anxiety is. Once you reach your threshold and go above it, that's when it starts causing problems for you during a test. So, what we want is for you to find the anxiety level that helps you when you're taking the exam. Because some anxiety is good. That's what motivates you to study and to do your homework to be successful. So, studying and doing these great habits, where are you studying? So, right now, what I want you to do, and just you don't have to put this in the chat, but in your mind, where are you studying? So, are you studying now because of the pandemic? You can't go to the library. So, where are you studying now? Are you studying at the kitchen table? Are you studying in your bedroom? Are you studying on a desk, in an office? And is this working for you? Are people coming in and distracting you? Are they talking to you because they miss you and they want to talk to you, or and they're disrupting your studying? So the location is very important right now, because in order to learn the information and be able to recall it during the exam, you need to be able to be getting it in. So no distractions of someone's watching TV or listening to music. And then managing time. And with that, what is the best time for you? Going back to your learning style and your personality, when you're managing your time, are you a morning person? And David and I have already discussed kind of we don't do really well if someone said, okay, we want to have a study group at 5 in the morning. That would not be ideal for me. I do not like to do things really early in the morning. I would be more of a 6 or 7 or even a 9 p.m. type of person. So, what time works best for you to study? And when and what is the procrastination issue? So, looking at those, because the distractions are key, of course, the cell phones, the TVs, the computers, all of those things can be very distracting, especially now, and all the other emotions that you are experiencing. If you're if you're lonely, or if you're feeling stressed about the pandemic, all of these things can go into inhibiting your learning. So organize material to be studied and learned. So when you have your material, regardless if you're doing it remotely or if you're doing it in person later on in your semesters, it's a great idea to have a step-by-step study plan to avoid getting overwhelmed. So how many of you, again, you don't have to tell us in the chat, but how many of you have ever pulled an all-nighter to get your to study for a test? Like, I'm going to pull an all-nighter, I have a test tomorrow, and you're exhausted, you're stressed, all these things will start happening. That is not a good way to study for a test. If you break it, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So if you do that with your studying, you're going to be much less stressed, more prepared, and you're going to feel better about it. So that could be creating, okay, the exam is over 3 chapters and I have a week to study. So the first day I'm going to review my notes for chapter 1. On day 2, I'm going to review my notes for chapter 2 and break it up for what works. And then when are you going to be doing this? That goes back to time management. Are you going to do it at night when you are more awake, or are you going to do it in the morning because you're a morning person? So also be aware of the outside pressures. What type of pressures are you putting on yourself for this particular exam? And that has a huge effect on your stress level. Because if you have outside pressures of, if I don't pass this test, I'm not going to be able to go on to my next math class, and then I'm not going to graduate in time, I'm not going to be able to transfer, and then you're just in this spiraling out of control, feeling so overwhelmed, and that's not going to help you. So having that, again, self-awareness of what is really going on here. Am I catastrophizing it? What is the worst thing that can happen? I know a lot of nursing students have to have a particular 76, and they really hone in on that, and that's a lot of pressure. So a lot of pressure that you're putting on yourself and that you're getting from your instructors and from the program itself. Are you getting pressures from your parents or your significant others? Okay, and then finally, for the general, regardless of how you're taking and studying, if it's remote or in person, or if you're doing an online study group through Zoom or Google Meets, it is a great idea to review your past performance on tests to improve and learn from the experience. So I'm a really big component of looking at what you did, what worked, what didn't work, and what changes do you need to make. And that's what I want you to do throughout this. I'm doing a lot of talking, but because of the modality of this, but try to write down, yeah, that would really work for me, or I realize that I am putting a lot of pressure on myself. But if you didn't get the grade that you wanted on that first exam, what do you need to do? And especially with courses where you're building on it, if you don't have a strong foundation, then it's going to cause problems for you as you try to learn new material. So tutoring, I really encourage you to seek tutoring. And you can do this in seeking help. First, reach out to your instructor to see if they have any ideas about how to improve. They're the ones creating the test, so they probably would be your best person. But if you need some additional help that they can't provide, study groups are a wonderful way to do that. So these are peers who are in the class, and they will be able to, talk about it. Other tutors are very helpful as well. So talking to the instructor, forming a study group, having a study buddy, and again, always evaluating, is it working? Or are you talking about Games of Thrones and being off track? Then you need to find a different study group or a different study buddy if you don't feel like it's effective for you. But don't give up after the first time trying. Keep working on it. So learn from the experience. And if you need to go to tutoring, please don't feel that that means that you're not smart. It means that you're smart enough to seek out, I need some additional help. and I'm going to be okay if I do this. I Everyone has had some tutoring somewhere in their life. So it doesn't mean that you're not going to make it through. It means you probably will because you're getting the help that you need. We have several places on campus that you can seek tutoring. So in the chats, just so that you don't have to listen to me for a couple seconds, in the chat, where are the tutoring places available at Glendale? So what this could be in the chat, please tell us, where are you getting tutoring? What tutoring are you aware of? What have you used? What have you thought about using? So in the chat right now, you're putting in, because I know we have some that are just coming in the chat, please put what tutoring is available to Glendale students. And this is all free tutoring because you're a student. So I really encourage you to take advantage of it. Dr. Gerkin, how are we doing on the chat?
Okay, no, nothing there yet. So I'll give people a minute. Okay, they're starting to put
Okay,
some things in. There's one, online math tutoring.
okay.
So anywhere you're aware on campus or online that you can get tutoring, go ahead and type it in there. Let's see how many we can get.
So we have online math, so that would be Math Solutions, and that's remote. All of the tutoring right now is going to be remote. So kind of like what we're doing, it's going to be on Google Meets or Zoom or WebEx, where you're meeting with your tutor.
Okay, I'm saying math, computer science, English, physics, subjects you can get tutoring in.
Yes, all of those. And I have put the website of where you can go to. And this is the link that if you click it, it has, I think, 14 different areas of where you can get tutoring. And if you are working on something and it's 1 o'clock in the morning and you're like, okay, I can't reach out to my study buddy, they're sleeping, or I have no idea how to do this problem, but I really need to get it figured out. You have 5 hours of brain fuse, and that's an online tutoring, and it's a nationwide. It's not just through Glendale, but they're available 24/7. So you can utilize them in the middle of the night if you are working on something and you're stuck. So all of that is available to you as a student. So at the end, Dr. Gerkin is going to provide the link to the PowerPoint so that you can see these slides and you'll be able to click. Or you can go to Glendale's site and put in tutoring and it will tell you how to do the tutoring, where to go, who to call, how to set up an appointment. So you just look for what subject you're needing some additional help in and you will find it on that page. All right. So if you have any questions as we're going through, please write them down and we will get to them at the end.
Oh, I
I know
also
that's
saw,
not ideal, but that way we'll do all the questions at the end in the chat.
okay, a couple of things, if I can
Okay.
jump in here, Amy.
Oh, sure.
I'm hearing some background noise, so everyone remember to mute your mics so Amy can be heard clearly. I'm seeing a few of you have not muted. Please mute your mics. Thank you. And I know someone else wrote in 24/7 librarian help.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. So if you're doing research, they're available to you as well. Great. Okay. So now this next slide, again, we're going to be in chat. So we're chatting again. So what I would like you to do is, I want to know as we go forward, what type of issues have you had with remote testing? Because a lot of that has probably caused anxiety. So in the chat, again, take a couple minutes to tell us what kind of issues have you had? So has it been computer issues? Has it been you didn't get to use your own computer and that was throwing you off. You couldn't use a mouse. Uh, you had too many distractions during the test. What type of issues have you had with remote testing?
Someone has written software extensions and Proctor U,
Okay,
and another
so
one
ProctorU
is
is one of the ones that we use at Glendale. Um,
other responses are staying focused was difficult, computer issues, staying on task.
Definitely. So it's for some of us, this is a brand new way of teaching and learning and taking tests. So this could have been the very first time. And the reason I'm glad that we're doing this workshop right now is some instructors have the quizzes in Canvas, and then the final is going to be remote where you do the Proctor U. And it could be your very first time doing something where the final is going to be where you have all these rules and restrictions. I know some students have reported that they feel like, they're going to do something wrong and get accused of cheating if they look away. And so it can cause more anxiety when you're taking a test. So the more, again, just like with the material that you're going to be tested over, the more prepared you are for the actual test. So the more information you have, the less stress you're going to be. And the more practice you can have on the particular computer or in the format, if you're used to a Mac and then you have to go take it on a Chromebook, that could really throw you off. So practicing on that and knowing that's going to happen. Okay, so these are the considerations for remote test taking. Again, regardless of how you're doing your test and for future use, or if we continue this way, maybe you decided, I love this type of remote learning and I want to take more online classes. So prepare. Again, just like what I mentioned before and the things you mentioned in chat, you want to know, okay, what type of um, application am I going to need? Am I going to need to download it onto my computer? Am I going to need it on my phone? Does it cost money? Do I have to pay for a proctor? Those are all things that are happening with the remote testing. So, do you have the money in your budget? You don't want to be surprised the day of the test that you need to have $25 and you're like, oh my goodness, I don't have that until payday. So, all of those things that you need to consider for the online exam. So, prepare, read and understand the test guidelines. Like I said, are you able to bring in a drink of a water or maybe coffee? Some proctors and some instructors will allow it. Some have limited it to, it has to be in a cup that they can see through. So it can't be a cup that could have something on the back of it. A lot of times you can't bring your own calculator. They have to either, you have to go, and some of them are still doing the test on campus, so you can't have it, or you'll have to show your tests where you're taking the test, and you'll have to physically, you know, have your camera and show your space, show your calculator, make sure there's nothing written on it. So just be aware if you haven't done anything like this yet, these are some things that can come up. So ask these questions. Uh, it should be in the syllabus or on Canvas, but if the instructor's not telling you, ask. These are very valid questions to ask your instructor because you don't want to be thrown for a loop. Will the test take place at a specific date and time? So do you have to all get on at a certain time and take the test on Tuesday at 1 p.m.? Or do you have until Sunday at midnight to take the exam? These are things to know. Uh, can, in the window, that's how much time will you have to complete the test? That's the time management thing. Do you have what a normal class would be? Do you have 50 minutes? Do you have an hour and a half? Do you have an hour and 20 minutes? This is going to be really important to know because then you'll know, how do I budget my time? And we're going to talk a little bit more about that with the budgeting the time. But other things that you need to know, um, bandwidth. So before this has all happened, had never even heard of what is a bandwidth. Bandwidth is dealing with your computer and the network and your internet. And David does a little bit more, a lot more, if I have to be honest, techie than me. So, but with bandwidth, it is if you are online doing your exam, and then you have a brother and sister who they're doing remote learning through high school or middle school, or another someone else, or you have a parent who's working from home, this is could cause problems with your bandwidth. And you're going to get a notice that says bandwidth issues. So I don't know if any of you have experienced this, but then the test may not work properly, and that could really throw you off. Or it could be that you're not even able to finish the exam because of the bandwidth. There's not enough bandwidth. So someone has to either get off. So this is going to be important for you to communicate with other internet users in your home. Like, okay, I'm going to be taking an exam for 2 hours on Tuesday, and I'm going to need the bandwidth. Could you do something else on that day? Or, so it's going to be a negotiation. We already talked about the cost. Is there a cost involved with the application or with the proctor? And be aware of that. And how do you pay? And just so that you're not thrown again at the very last minute. And what type of applications are you using? ProctorU is the major one that we're using at Glendale. So these are the major considerations. Check your computer. So you want to avoid last minute problems and make sure it's charged or charging while you are taking the exam. You don't want it to run out of juice right in the middle of your essay question. And whether you're using your own computer or the one in the lab, if you're using the one in the lab, try to figure out what type of computer it is prior to the exam so that you can be familiar. If I had to go and take a test on a Mac, I would be really anxious because I'm not a Mac user. And some people aren't comfortable with a PC or a Chromebook because they're a Mac user. So just know what it is you're going to be using, because that's going to cause even more anxiety than you already have about the material. Okay. So this is what I mentioned before. When you're considering remote testing, what can you have around you? So they're usually pretty clear in the syllabus or when they're talking about the test. Can you have a drink of water? Can you have a snack, which we're going to be talking about in a few minutes? Can you have a piece of paper to take notes? Or can you have a pen even? Can you have a calculator? What can be around you? What can't be around you? Okay. And then more remote test considerations. What possible distractions could take place while you're taking the test? Now, this is my TA. His name is Bentley. He is my 7-year-old miniature schnauzer who is, thank goodness, taking a nap right now because he was being very verbal before. And that is a huge distraction. So if I was taking a test, or if I'm doing a counseling meeting, or I'm teaching my class and he starts to bark, that's a distraction. So what type of distractions? Are you going to have someone walking by to the refrigerator? Are you going to have someone who turns on the TV for their favorite show right in the middle of your exam? You want to try to prevent this from happening, because any type of distraction can throw you off. And then you become even more anxious, and then it can spiral out of control. So, one thing happens, and then another thing happens, and another thing happens, and then you're like, forget it. I'm not even going to take this exam.
All right,
So,
I got to tell you, Amy, when I first saw this slide, I got to tell everyone, I thought you had a stuffed animal propped up there, so it looked like it was holding onto that pad. Then I find out that's your real dog, Bentley.
yes, he's definitely real. And I'm so glad that he's sleeping right now. But he doesn't grade as quickly as I would like. but
Oh, so
and
he's your teacher assistant then.
he
I see.
is. He's my
Okay.
TA. Yep. So
He wasn't quiet when we were getting ready for this
he
workshop.
was not. We were a little nervous, a lot nervous. I was anxious, wasn't I, Dr. Gergen?
Yes, and now you're very calm.
Yes, and so is he. So that's a good example of the distractions. If you have a child or if you have a brother or sister, are they going to be knocking on the door? I want some juice, or they don't know. I mean, Bentley doesn't know that this is what I'm doing. He thinks he gets a bone because every time I get on the phone or do something, I give him a bone the last 8 months. So now he's like, well, where's my bone? So being aware of those distractions will be very important dealing with your test anxiety. Okay, so in general, again, test preparation to reduce your anxiety. Write down anything that you think will work for you and how are you going to use that in your own life, because we're going to be asking for those at the end. So when you are prepping, you want to be relaxed when you are studying for the test, because then you're going to be more relaxed when you're taking the test. So avoid speaking with fellow students who have not prepared or who are negative about it or negative about the whole experience, or they're just like, oh, I don't even want to do this anymore. This is going to distract you. So going back to your study group or your study buddy, if you find that your study buddy is not helping you as much anymore and they're negative, then you need to reassess that relationship as far as helping you reach your goals, your academic goals. So you want to be able to be relaxed when you're trying to concentrate and get the information into your long-term memory. That way you can recall it when you need it under all kinds of different scenarios that are happening. So if your computer is kind of giving you trouble and you're starting to get a little anxious, you'll still be able to do the recall if you study when you're more relaxed. And everybody who takes a and studies has a different idea of what's relaxing. I like to be in a room with nothing going on, and that's relaxing to me. Some people like very soft music, maybe with no words, classical music in the background. Bach tends to have a lot of statistical data of, helping with relaxation. So whatever works for you. Okay. A program of exercise. So exercise sharpens the mind. So there's lots of research about this. So what works for you as far as what type of exercise are you capable of? What type of exercise do you enjoy? Because if you don't enjoy it, then you're not going to do it. So finding something is, maybe it's walking your TA, I walk Bentley, or you go for a walk around the block, or you are um, maybe you go to a gym or you have a home gym or something that you find helpful and you enjoy. So some sort of program of exercise will sharpen your mind as you're studying. Get a good night's sleep the night before the exam. Again, this some of you are probably laughing and I can't see all of you, but this is sometimes hard because if you have family or you're working and all of these things are going on and you haven't studied as much as you want to prepare, then you're like, I can't, I only can get a couple hours. Or some of you are probably, like I said before, pulled an all-nighter to study. Try to prepare so that you don't have to do that. Because if you don't have very much sleep and you're trying to go in and then all these things start happening, your threshold of being able to handle these things is going to be lower if you don't have the sleep. And you're not going to be able to recall the information as quickly or at all because you're tired. Okay, so number 4, as you're preparing, so again, take a mental note. Do you think, oh, this is going to help me, or no? Some of you don't like to eat before a test, especially if it's a morning test. Like, okay, I want to go take it and not eat. But it's sometimes challenging to take an exam on an empty stomach because you don't have those nutrients that are helping you recall the information. So they suggest the data, lots of good data about fresh fruits and vegetables. So eat things that you enjoy again. Don't force yourself to eat broccoli the day before the test or the morning of if you don't like it, but they're all recommended to reduce stress. Now, if you're not typically a breakfast eater, I don't suggest that you go ahead and like, oh, and Amy said we better eat breakfast, so I'm going to eat breakfast. And you aren't prepared to do so because, you know, there's all things that if your stomach isn't used to eating breakfast and all of a sudden you throw breakfast on it, that could cause problems for you. Um, so as far as your energy level and all kinds of other things. So when you are stressed, the type of foods that you typically want are the processed foods. You crave those. So try to avoid those and go for the carrots or, go for something healthier.
So avoid the Big Mac, fries, and soda, you're saying.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, that's what I crave. But Dr. Gerkin, he likes the carrots. So he does this. He does the
I don't know
reduce the
if I would
stress.
say I like the carrots, but I try to eat
He
them.
eats the carrots. I eat the carrots too now. I am trying to be better. Okay. Practice what I am teaching. Take a snack or some other nutrition element with you. If you are going to again, it's going to be very important if you are going in to take the exam. I know a lot of the nursing students are physically having to go in there, and there's some labs that have to go in and take the exam. If you're doing that, make sure you know, is this something that's permitted? Can I bring in my bottled water? Can I bring in my apple? Can I bring in my carrots? They probably won't want you if you're around other people, you know, eating a carrot because that's going to distract the others around you. But are you able to have a snack? If it's a 3-hour test, are you able to have carrots next to you? Be sure you find that out before. You don't want to get in trouble or, have someone say, well, they had a snack and this is all invalid now. So just know the rules prior to doing any of these things that I'm suggesting. Okay, so now we talked about the preparation. Now think about the day of the test. It is finally here. So envision that. It is test day. Oh, what I would like you to do is the next slide. So get out a piece of paper, the one that you've been taking notes on. Um, is fine. You can flip it over, but you're going to need some blank space because I'm going to be giving you a quiz right now. Oh, you didn't know you're going to have to be taking a quiz.
Gasp.
Yes. So what I'd like you to do, I'm going to give you a few minutes to take the quiz. So as soon as I show the next slide, hopefully you can all read that and go ahead and do that. Trying to see if I can see any of you. I see all your names and your pretty pictures.
I see in the chat someone has said they're done already. That's a very quick working person.
Yeah.
Another one saying they're done. What happens to me when I'm taking a test and I see other people are done before me? I start getting anxious about it. I should be done
Yes.
then.
Yeah, that's a real problem for a lot of people, Dr. Kirkin, is that if you are seeing other people walk out, you're like, oh my goodness, why did they get done so fast?
When I
But
was a
everyone
student, I always
goes
thought
at their
that
own
meant that
pace.
they knew it better than me. When I
Right.
became an professor, what I found was that meant they didn't know it and they just guessed quickly and went out in most cases.
Yes, I had the same experience. I thought, oh, wow, they're better prepared or they're faster or they know it better. And then when I became a professor, I found out that that's not always the case. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so I can't see if all of you are doing all the things on the quiz. Probably one of the easier quizzes that you'll have. So just think about when I said we're going to do a quiz, what popped into your head? So what were you thinking? Were you thinking, oh, I didn't expect this? Did you get anxious? What was physically happening to you? Did your palms get sweaty? Did your heart start racing? Did you start breathing heavy? What things were happening? So that's why I did this. I wanted you to be aware of what is happening when I get a quiz thrown on me, because this is going to be very important when you're figuring out how to combat it. So I'm sure you all figured out at this point, when you got to the bottom, it says do not do steps 1 through 10. You didn't even have to do all of those. So if you did, again, don't beat yourself up, but that's the number one thing during the test. That's why I wanted you to do this. Figure out what's causing you the anxiety and what is your body physically doing, and then to read the directions carefully. That's going to be really the key. Read all the directions before you start, because sometimes it says what type of pen to use. It will say you can't use calculator. You want to make sure you're following all the directions, especially in a remote environment that you're not used to. Okay, budget your time. If you have 50 minutes, are you going to use 5 minutes per question? Are you going to, it depends on how many questions there are. And then our essay questions are going to take you longer. So make sure you allot some more time for the essay questions. Change positions to help you relax. So if you're able to do that, you may, especially if it's a very long test, you may want to uncross your legs or be aware of where you're carrying the tension. If you go blank, and if it's possible, skip the question and go on. Sometimes you can't in a computer type setting, and it won't let you go back. But it's always good, especially if you start and you don't know the first question. I encourage you to find one that you know, to build up your confidence, or maybe to even trigger a question and answer to something else. Okay. So the essay test, if you go blank on the whole thing, okay, so pick a question and start writing. It may trigger the answer in your mind. So find an essay question, if there's several of them, that you do feel comfortable with. Okay, don't panic. This is what Dr. Gerkin was talking about. Don't panic when students start handing in their papers. Now, one thing with taking an online and remote test, you're not going to know, for the most part, you're not going to know when other people are done. So that's a perk, as I call a pandemic perk, that you don't have to worry about as much. There's no reward for finishing first. And as we said, it does not mean that they know the material better. So just go at your own pace. Try not to compare yourself to others. Okay. So during the test, if you are feeling anxious, again, kind of trying to determine where it is you're anxious, what is happening to your body, and using a relaxation technique that works for you. So, based on your personality, based on your learning style, what works for you. So, if you're not a big meditator, it may not work for you. So, what is something that will work? Everyone can find something that works for them. So, if you find that, okay, my computer's not working, I just need to take a couple slow, deep breaths, and remember you are in control. You have this, you studied, you know what you're doing. So just keep telling yourself that. And what is your inner critic saying? What are you telling yourself? Make sure that it's a positive thought process. Don't think about the fear. You want to pause, think about the next step, and keep on task step by step. So even if you're nervous, try not to focus on that. Focus on the material that you're answering. Okay, use positive reinforcement. As I said before, beware of your inner critic. Instead of saying, I don't know any of this, you're going to say, I got this. I'm going to be successful. I'm going to do really well on this test. I studied. I know what I'm doing. I'm prepared. So be careful what you're telling yourself. Expect some anxiety. It is going to happen whenever you take a test. It's going to be there. What happened when I said we're going to take a quiz? Well, you knew you probably weren't going to get graded on it, so the anxiety probably wasn't very high, but it is going to be there. It's a reminder that you want to do your best and you can provide energy. Okay, so just keep it under control. Where is your threshold? And what do you need to do to get it back so that you can recall the information when you need it? Okay, so realize that anxiety can be a habit. It takes practice to use it. And what I mean by this is it can be your go to. So if you're like, test, I know I'm just going to go and be anxious, even if I don't have a reason to be, if you know the material. So be careful. It's not just something that you go to, it's a go to feeling that you have, the anxiety. Okay, so now we have reached, you have prepared for the test, you've taken the test, and now it's after the test. Woo, just like walk away from it and I'm done. Oh no, there's lots of things that you do after the test. So this little guy, when you remember an answer after you've already turned in your test, have you ever felt that way? And it is true. Go with your gut. Try not to change a lot of answers because you've noticed a lot of times the first answer is correct. And yeah, he's looking a little freaked out there. What you want to do is list what worked. Again, evaluating, like you evaluate your study groups and your study buddy and where you're studying. List what worked and hold on to these strategies. So if you're like, okay, I liked working on the Chromebook. It really was helpful to go into the office and not have any distractions. I'm going to do that again for the next test. List what did not work. Okay, did you have too many distractions? Did the computer break down? What was not working for you? Did you not study the right way? Did you get into the test and nothing was what you thought was going to be on there? So you need to prep a little bit differently. All right, and then celebrate that you are on the road to overcoming this obstacle. So number 2, if something didn't work, don't beat yourself up. Don't, throw in the towel. Say, I have all these new techniques now, and I'm going to turn it around. So we've learned a lot of things very quickly, went through it. If for some reason, well, it could be because I was going through it very quickly, but if you did not get what you wanted from the workshop, if you thought it was going to be something else, or you wanted maybe you need some more individual attention as far as I need to talk about this a little bit more. And we have several counselors, my colleagues, and some of them are in here today that we can help you. So we can help with test anxiety, with test taking, and help you reduce that anxiety so that you can be successful. Right now, we are doing remote through Google Meets if you'd like to do a video chat or a phone call or any other type of assessments that you need for career. We're here to help you. So this is the information, and Dr. Gerkin's going to be sending this to you. So you'll have it, but you can either send an email to counseling@gccaz.edu or call the front desk to set up an appointment with one of us, and we will help you with any type of test anxiety if you need something else or if you need more of something else. Okay. So now what I'd like you to do is process, look at your notes, and what are two strategies? So I'm only asking for two, but what are two strategies that will work for your learning style, as I've been saying throughout this workshop? What will work for your learning style and your personality? So think about, all right, what's something that's going to work for you as you're prepping for the test? What's something that's going to work for you during the test? And what's something that's going to work for you maybe after the test? So just pick two strategies in those three areas,
So
something
just
that you haven't tried that you think will work. And then I'd like you to post it in the chat.
so Amy, are you asking for just two total strategies and they could
Yeah,
come from any of
just
those
two.
three areas?
Yeah,
Okay.
just post two. And we're going to share them so that you have the opportunity to get some ideas from your classmates to see what works for them. And it'll give you ideas that maybe you haven't thought of that could work for you. Maybe you have someone that has a similar learning style as you, and this would work. So, all the things that we talked about today, what is something that you're committed to working on and incorporating into your test taking experience? Okay. Anything coming in yet?
We'll give them about a minute or so. A couple things are starting to come in.
Okay.
Managing time and organizing material to be studied is one. Getting a good night's sleep before the test and
Yes.
exercising since it helps me release some anxiety. Here's another one. Don't go to the exam with an empty stomach and manage time.
Right. That can be very distracting.
We'll give about 30 seconds for any more responses you may want to write in. Study and manage time is another one.
Hmm.
Having a full stomach and having slept well.
Those are great. Yes, if you're not incorporating those things, try that because if your stomach is growling, that's going to be a distraction. In your refrigerator, you may be able to see it in a remote test taking environment, and that's going to be even more distracting. You're like, I really want something to eat.
Yeah. Another one is I believe that it would benefit me to study in a different area.
Yes.
Organizing my location homework folder.
Yeah. Getting organized, making sure you don't have the cell phone distraction. I know that's hard, but evaluate that and be honest with yourself. These are great.
There's one more I'm going to share, and then in the interest of time, we probably should go to questions. But
Yes,
managing time and relaxing and not focusing on other people.
right. Doing that comparing thing. I love it. These are great strategies. So, yeah, go ahead and start working on the two that you're going to, and maybe you have more. You can do those. And maybe you have 10 or 12 that you learned from the workshop, but I just wanted to share two so we have them. Okay, so now do you have any questions? If you do, please put it in the chat. So we have a couple minutes for questions. And like I said, if you wanted some more, you had more questions or you wanted to talk individually about that, please set up an appointment with one of the counselors. And be sure you stay to the end so that you can put in your course name or program. So if it's honors or ACE or Hoopa Learning or a specific class that you're getting extra credit for, you're going to need to put it in the chat so that we can get the information to the proper people.
Yes, your
Any
name will already
questions?
appear there. You'll just
Okay.
need to put your course or, yeah, and then somebody's asking if the PowerPoint will be available. Yes, I'm going to put that in just about 1 minute. I'm going to post it here in the chat for you. So don't log off yet. You'll be able to get that in about 1 minute.
Okay.
So
Yeah. So we're putting the PowerPoint for you to have all this great information.
So if any of you have any questions, type them in. If any of you want extra credit, just type in extra credit for math 150, whatever it is, course number, and your instructor, or extra credit honors, extra credit ACE plus, those kind of things. The program or class. Okay, I see
Yeah.
one of those coming in. All right, I am going to get ready to post the PDF in the chat. I'll do that in just a second. And I'm
Okay.
going to stop the recording. Is it okay if I do that at this point, Amy?
Yes.
Okay. You'll hear that recorded voice again saying this recording is being stopped, and then I'll post the slides.